Chapter 7. The Flushy Pre-Screening. Truthfully, I was floundering at work. My mind was completely preoccupied with Flushy. I went from a rising star, a person to watch, to the laughing stock of the office. I'd fallen from Mount Olympus. The question was, could I get back up? I couldn't close a door, let alone a sale. Every day after work, I would go to the Flushy website and do some poking around. During my lunch breaks, I went on my phone and read articles about Flushy. When I was sitting on the toilet in the office pretending to poop, I was trolling on my phone looking at what Flushy had to offer. I even canceled my existing life insurance policy with a 200-year-old life insurance carrier and secretly switched it over to Flushy. The savings were substantial. Yeah, I felt a little guilty, but what was I supposed to do? Was I supposed to just sit there and flush my money down the toilet? I finally caved into my baser instincts. There was an open job at Flushy that I was mulling over applying for. For 3 weeks it was staring me right in the face, popping up in my news feed. I justified and rationalized my decision again and again and again. I went to the Flushy website and hit the apply button. What better day to do it than my day off? The application was your standard boilerplate kind of human resources approved landing page. I filled out all of the basic information: name, address, occupation, work history, desired salary, etc. Then I got to the section to upload my resume and a cover letter. Ironically, I'd never actually gotten around to making a resume. Where does one start? I sat there for 30 to 40 minutes searching for tips on how to build a quality resume. Honestly, I've always found the idea of resumes to be a little antiquated. In my opinion, a resume, like a report card, is loosely associated with competency. Nonetheless, it's required. So I slapped a resume together and hoped for the best, using the best possible tips the internet had to offer. Done and done, I mumbled to myself. I submitted the application and sat back in my old pleather executive chair. The next thing I knew, I saw an email pop up on my phone from Flushy. That was fast. Maybe a little too fast. The email read, "Thank you for your interest in the position at Flushy. The next step in the process is an over-the-phone interview. If you're interested, please reply to human_resources@flushy.com and let me know the best date and time for me to call you. Monday through Friday between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. What to expect during your Flushy phone interview? The conversation could last up to 120 minutes. I will review your employment and educational background prior to the interview. We will ask behavioral-based and non-behavior-based questions in our interview. Prior to the interview, you need to complete your Flushy assessment. It'll take anywhere from 90 to 120 minutes. We look forward to speaking with you." I scheduled my interview with Flushy for later in the afternoon. It's not like I had anything better to do. Luckily, I called into work and decided to take a sick day. I had 5 hours to prep for the interview, plenty of time. The email contained a hyperlink to the Flushy employment assessment. I clicked on the link and it led me to this website with some basic instructions. At first glance, it all seemed rather rudimentary, but then I clicked on the Start button. The test had a giant red countdown timer on the right-hand side that followed you as you scrolled down the assessment. The assessment was comprised of 100 questions, which were a mix of multiple choice, true or false, and fill in the blank. The first question on the test was a bit obtuse. It read, "You're about to board a bus from Los Angeles to San Francisco. You would like to know if it's raining in San Francisco. So you call 4 friends who live in San Francisco. There is a 66% chance that each friend is telling you the truth, and a 33% chance of telling you a lie. None of your friends are not telling you that it's raining in San Francisco. What is the overall probability that it is not, in fact, raining in San Francisco?" I stared at that question for a good 5 minutes, and I had no idea what the answer was. In front of me, I had 5 choices and no clue in the world. A, 1%, B, 22%, C, 33%, D, 66%, E, none of the above. Given I wasn't a rocket scientist, My strategy was to guess. My dad taught me a good rule of thumb when I was 11 years old. If you see a none of the above on a test, odds are that's the correct answer. If you don't know the answer, just assume that they are all wrong. So I did just that. The drawer in my home office desk had a bottle of bourbon just for this very occasion. I pulled out the drawer and grabbed the bottle of whiskey along with a red plastic cup. I poured a glass of whiskey and started casually sipping. It wasn't fancy, but I needed something to take the edge off. The next question was a lot easier. True or false? Bob is younger than Donald. Donald is older than Ronald. Ronald is older than Bob. If the first two statements are true, the third statement is true? False. Did I say a lot easier? That was somewhat of an embellishment on my part. This test wasn't nearly as pedestrian as I had hoped. I'd tried reasoning out the question in my head, like that somehow would help. Okay, if Bob is, Ronald is older than, okay, I got it. I'll just guess. Man, forget this, I blurted out at my computer. What did I have to lose? I had a 50-50 chance of being correct. Better odds than the lottery, so I guessed and moved on. I did that for another 10 or so questions, until I arrived at question number 14. Let me tell you about question number 14. It read, "What kind of animal are you?" Take that in for a second. I know I did. What kind of animal am I? What kind of nonsense kind of question is that? What would be the appropriate answer for a hipster tech company? What would they want to hear? Play it safe or bet the farm. I went the safe route. I went with a wolf. It's a pack animal, it's a hunter, it's perfect for sales. I breezed through the next 20 or so questions and half my bottle of whiskey. The whiskey was really starting to take effect. Before I knew it, I was staring down question number 51. It read, "What Latin verb becomes its own past tense by rearranging its letters? Fill in the blank." Latin is a dead language, isn't it? I was jolted by my own melancholy. Maybe I needed to ease up on the whiskey intake. I decided to leave that answer blank and see what would happen. This test was confiscating what little cognitive power I had left. I was like a car running on fumes, grasping for every ounce of fuel left in the tank. The countdown timer had 30 minutes left on the clock. I started randomly guessing the answers to the next 25 questions. It was the only realistic way I could get this thing done within the time window. I got to the final 10 questions and took a big sigh of relief. 15 minutes left on the clock. Plenty of time to finish strong. I mean, I couldn't do any worse at this point. Question number 90 wasn't so bad. It read, "True or false, a 4 by 4 by 4 square cup can hold more water than a 3 by 6 by 3 triangle cup?" I wrapped up the final 10 questions and hit the submit button with 30 seconds to spare. I spent the last 2 hours putting my brain through a hodgepodge of logic games. I stood up quick to stretch my legs, probably a little too quick for how many shots of whiskey I ended up consuming. Nothing like a little day drinking and mental stimulation. I had about 3 hours to kill before the initial phone interview. Now that I had the test done, I could relax and take a power nap. I had plenty of time. I set my alarm for 2:30 p.m., which would give me a half hour or so to prep for the interview. Really, I just needed to sober up. I belly flopped onto my bed and instantly fell asleep. I woke up about as fast as I fell asleep to the sound of my watch alarm. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm had a thundering, repetitive beep to it. The beep clamored, the beep amplified, the beep intensified. Most likely the culprit was my hangover. The effects of the whiskey started to wear off. I felt fine, more or less. I wasn't crisp, but good enough for an interview. For once, I decided not to hit the snooze button. About 5 minutes later, after a couple of cups of coffee, the phone began to ring. Ring, ring, ring. It was an abnormally loud ring. Maybe it was just my nerves. I stared down at my phone and looked to see who was calling. It was a local number, so I assumed it wasn't a scam call. These days, my cell phone was bombarded with scam robot calls. "Hello?" I answered with a slight hesitation. "Hi, is this Mike Allen?" "Speaking." "Mike, this is Jeannie DiStefano with Flushy. How are you today?" Jeannie had a discernible East Coaster kind of accent. She was probably from somewhere around the Long Island area. If I were to guess, she was one of the many recent expats coming out of the Northeast. "I'm doing great. Thanks for asking." I thought it best if I kept my answers short and succinct. I read that somewhere on the internet while I was browsing for interview tips. "Mike, I'm going to cut to the chase. To say we're impressed with your resume would be an understatement." "Thanks. Believe it or not, that was the first time I had to put one together." That probably wasn't the smartest way to answer that question. Well, either way, good job. Aside from your resume, we need to talk about your sales assessment." Here it comes. She's about to drop the hammer on me. I was feeling pretty crummy about my overall performance. Maybe downing half a bottle of whiskey before breakfast wasn't a great idea. I mean, I've had worse ideas. "The results of your sales assessment came back, and they were very strong. In fact, you crushed the sales assessment. It's the highest score we've seen all year, maybe since the test was created." That revelation jarred my senses. I couldn't help but utter this pathetic sort of self-congratulatory response. I'm really glad to hear it." "Needless to say, we're interested. We want to offer you the complete Flushy package, which includes a base salary, commission, educational reimbursement, leads, expense account, health insurance, and a full retirement package, and much, much more." "That all sounds great. What's the catch?" This sounds way good to be true. I was still awestruck by the whole conversation. "Catch? No, there's no catch. We're looking for the best and the brightest. We're looking for the rising stars. We're looking for the hidden gems. And we are willing to pay for that top talent. That's all. That's it. Simple and easy. Any questions for me?" "Yeah, when do I start?" "Sure, let's talk next steps. You'll have to come by the office and interview with the president of Flushy. He interviews all of the new salespeople and hand-selects our new external candidates. Assuming you make it past that interview, the job is yours." "Sounds good to me." "I'll send you a follow-up email with all the deets. Tentatively, let's plan on next Monday. If anything changes, I'll let you know. If you need anything in the meantime, don't be shy about asking. Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you as well." Before I could finish my sentence, she hung up the phone. Things were progressing at a blinding speed. The question I had to ask myself was, could I keep up? On paper, Flushy was a rather compelling odyssey for me to pursue. If I wasn't still buzzed, I might be somewhat suspicious. It all sounded too good to be true. I guess I would find out.